Yeah, buddy. Man, the letters are coming in. So many successes, pats on the back, and accolades about so many cool success stories. We could probably spend all night talking about how great everything is. But y'all, as your elk hunting coaches, if we did only that, we would be doing you guys a huge disservice. Our job is to go further, to look way deeper and find the learning moments to help all become better. Tonight, we're going to share some of those letters and messages from you, our grinders, and find the bigger picture. Tonight's lessons come straight from the 2020 Archery Elk season, the frustrations, the heroes, and a little soul searching as well. Those topics, along with our ElkBros shout outs and questions from our ElkBros mailbox. So, my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your host Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gillia. You want to hunt elk, and they live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello there, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy the show. And for those blue collar hunters following our show and grinding it out with us every week, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas, the host of your show, coming to you live from Spring, Texas. And none other, one of the most influential Venezuelan mafia members, Mr. Luis Gonzalez from Katy, Texas. And from Cimarron, New Mexico itself. Your elk hunting coaches, Leroy, Chavez, and the one, the only, the elk master of 2020,
the master
Joe
of disaster, huh?
Giglia.
Oh my gosh, man!
All right, this membership crap has to go away.
WW.
So we'll talk about horseback riding at another time, man. Maybe that ought to be. Maybe racing on a horse is how we could determine the leader of the Venezuelan.
I mean, I've got proof, man. I got videos and all that stuff, man. So it was also proven at camp. Any angle you want to look at it from. I mean, if you look at the angle from camera A, camera B.
So I tell you what, I have to be honest, and I've gone back and I've looked at footage, and who's provided what, and Luis Gonzalez supplied an incredible amount of footage.
Thank you. But
Nano's footage was very limited, let's say.
not to mention some of it we cannot show at all.
It was never filmed.
I was like, what the heck is, what are we looking, and then the ground, man. It was like the ground, and I was like, oh man, I'm not even able to cover for him. So,
a
little excited.
I gotta tell you though, man, he was super excited when I knocked my bull down, man.
Oh, yeah.
That guy come walking down like Genghis Khan with a camera in his hand, dude. I mean, good night, nurse.
Oh man,
buddy.
I can't believe it's already been a couple weeks since we've been back home, man. It just went so fast, y'all. So now we're back at that counting
by like a blur,
off,
man.
huh?
Yeah. We work so hard for those 7 to 10 days to be off grid and do the hard part. But I think this is the hard part. I think the off season's the hard part. Joe, you get to live in elk country, so that's part of your life, all through September, October. For us, mere mortals, we're here, in the steel and concrete cities of our confines. We're going to get a little bit of whitetail action going here and some of them South Texas swine going on. Right. I know Luis and them are building some new arrows and stuff like that to get after some of them pigs. So, we're going to turn our focus a little bit to that. But look, like you said in our opening, we are not going to turn a deaf ear to what's coming up here for, our elk brothers from the rifle season and on
Right.
into the muzzleloader season.
Yeah, and that's the thing that we know that now in most states now there's still archery going on in some
No doubt.
places and different things, and in some places in some states you can hunt during those later seasons with a bow, but really that focus is starting now to go to muzzleloaders and rifle hunters that are going to be hitting the woods, and we're going to go in that direction next week. But for tonight, this is a special show highlighting a few of some letters that we received. And I mean, it is special. There's a lot of this stuff that really makes you think, makes you stop and think. And again, we're wanting to go deeper. We've all been looking at the pictures that everybody's been sending.
Right.
Been some incredible
I
stuff.
sure
huh?
have, yeah.
Man.
I mean, first time guys out there just slamming it, getting it done, some incredible animals. Everything that's out there has been a trophy. That's way, way cool. I'm just excited about that. And it'd be easy to write on that. But if we're going to grow, what we got to do is we got to take a look at the full picture, and we got to go deeper, and that's what we're going to do. So tonight's topic, guys, is Archery Elk 2020, frustration, heroes, and some soul searching. And everybody will see exactly what I mean here in just a little bit. Okay, and I'll tell you, we have a full ElkBros mailbox, man. I mean, then we're going to start shopping at.
Right.
About that, Joe. I mean, you've been posting the pictures and the stories of people sending you write-ups and letters of appreciation and all that stuff. It's been super cool and overwhelming to see just so many people being so appreciative to everything that you guys have shared with them and things that have helped them out to achieve what they have achieved. And just the fact that people would think about, the ElkBros when they actually, go through their experiences, it's got to be way rewarding,
to
Joe.
see people taking caps with them and shirts with them so they can put this stuff on in their photos and where they're at. And it is just so humbling, man. I mean, and
all the emails back to us about how we have, touched their hunt in some way, shape, or form. It's humbling at the very least, very humbling.
Even people with tons of experience as well that are able to kind of look back and at y'all's content and say, hey, you know what? Yeah, this is true. This is real. This is exactly what I went through. I mean, I've just, saying that you guys are real. This is true. This is, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, you can't get no more real. I mean,
I tell you what, it don't get it, and I tell people when you write us letters, send your phone number, because I give a lot more phone calls than I like to type. And, I talk to people, understand something. They're like, really? You took time out to call me? Look, man, we're just folks. That's all we are. We love to hunt. And it's hard. And a lot of you guys that are sending letters and stuff, most of those come to the mailbox at I-10 until I forward stuff out. And I'm in my guide season right now. So I'm gone for weeks at a time and get a couple days in between. And every now and then I get some service up there that I get to check things. So y'all be patient, please, and I appreciate that. But we do look at everything. And I even have some guys that had sent some stuff about rifle season that we kind of pushed to the back a little bit because we were dealing with everybody during the archery season, but we will get to you. And if we miss it, and if some of you guys haven't gotten answers from us, you need to go to your spam, because that's where it's heading.
Spam or junk. Yeah,
you need to.
Joe, I just got a text from a really good friend of mine, and there's bow hunting still going on in many places. I mean, they're bow hunting right now in Colorado. I got a buddy of mine that's on a pretty good herd bull, and he's been in and out of them all day, and he just hasn't been able to seal it up,
Oh, yeah.
So I talked to him a little bit. He sent a video of a bull in a waller that he just couldn't pull him, and he got within 70 yards of him, but couldn't pull him to within 50. And you know what? I got to shoot him a little text. His name is Justin Howe. Man, we're pulling for you, Justin. Keep grinding. We hunt together on our lease down in South Texas, and he's a big time killed his first bull last year with a bow, and so he loves to do it. And I got some guys that are big turkey hunters on our lease, and they're like, man, I told him, you guys like calling turkeys, this is like calling a Tyrannosaurus Rex on steroids. It's way better than thunder chickens. I'm going to tell you right now, man.
So Chav's been out every morning, man, finding the elk out there, huh?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
awesome,
Every time I drive out of Cimarron or drive back, I've been seeing a lot of elk on the road, and it's pretty neat. But
this is the time of the year. I mean, this is the magical time of year where this first part of October is steaming with bulls going nuts.
The whole premise of our podcast and our website is to cut everybody's learning curve down so that you're successful out there. So I encourage you guys that killed an elk, if you want to write a story about it, we'll print it on our website.
Send it our way.
Because every time we get any kind of information from anyone, it helps everybody else that listens. We're here to try and make it a great experience for everybody. So,
good stuff, Chav.
Absolutely.
Excellent point.
Yep. There
Very
you go.
good point.
Let's rock and roll, boys. We got a lot to cover.
Well, guys, you know what time it is. If you're new to our show, these are just the shout outs to a few cities with the most listeners topping our charts this week.
And ElkBros shout out, first of all, to those grinders giving us those incredible reviews on Apple Podcasts. Nick from, now, is this Coeur d'Alene, Idaho?
Coeur d'Alene.
Did I say that? I was pretty close, huh?
Pretty close.
I like it, Joe.
Yeah, nostalgic Nick, bro. Paul Perky, man, Paul is just a fantastic. Zach Fisher, Eric Aragon. Eric is, and you're going to hear more of that name later on. Dusty Davis with the review out there, and there was a review that came in that it call me an old softy, man. I don't know is my age or what, but we got one that was titled "Changes the Game of Informative Coaching," and he didn't give us his name and where he's from, but he said that these fellas, and he said some other things in there, these fellas have lifted my spirits since losing my mom early this year, and that provided me a reinvigorating fire for September, which coincides with her birthday. This is more than a podcast. This is a place to feel welcome, challenge yourself, and to look forward to another day in the Elkwoods. I dare you to find an episode that doesn't leave a smile on your face. And, he went on to say, thank you, gentlemen. You're providing way more than you're aware of. And, I don't have your name, but awesome, I just want to say thank you. God bless. And, it's when you get stuff like that it validates.
Soul feeling.
Yeah,
buddy.
Yeah.
And just so you know, you have given us all a big smile as well, and something to keep, grinding
Makes
for. So thank you.
Yep, absolutely, man. So I just want to put that out there. And now for our top listening cities. Chavez, take it away.
Okay, this top listening city was formerly called The Summit and is located on top of a mountain pass in central California. Its elevation is 741 feet above sea level. Its claim to fame came in 1969. That was my senior year in high school.
That's a very good
when it hosted a free concert at its local speedway that was intended to rival the concert synonymous with the 60s, Woodstock.
Ooh.
However, the event became infamous when the Hells Angels were hired as security by the management of the Rolling Stones for $500 worth of beer. So big shout out to Altamont, California.
Altamont, California.
That's awesome, man. They hired the Hells Angels. They brought the belly of the beast to Woodstock.
Well, and not only did you bring it, but you intoxicated it. That's like,
awesome,
oh man. I mean, that's like throwing gasoline on a fire, kind of, sort of, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's some times right there.
No doubt.
Altamont, California, guys. Thanks for listening.
You betcha.
This neighborhood in Idaho is part of the second largest metropolitan city in northern Idaho. Despite being a landlocked state, it has the distinction of having the easternmost landlocked seaport in the United States. Using dams and locks on the Snake and Columbia rivers, it is reachable by ocean-going vessels. Lewiston Orchards, Idaho.
Idaho, man.
Idaho in the house.
Yep. Idaho. Thank you guys, man. Always listening. Had no idea that you could reach the sea from Idaho. That's pretty
That's
cool.
crazy. Yeah.
It's got to be up in that panhandle, huh, brother?
Well, you got the snake. You know that snake.
Yeah, the
Goes
Snake
through
River
it.
that
Yeah.
comes out of it. Mhm.
And Columbia. And then
And
with the Columbia
Columbia
River is
River,
how they
too.
can get west.
Because I know in some parts the snake kind of divides the two states too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would think so.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, man.
Awesome.
Next up, a community located within the Portland metropolitan area and is adjacent to Beaverton. It is located in the midst of Oregon's Silicon Forest, home to hundreds of tech companies. Forest Park wraps around the northeast edge of the neighborhood, famed for being one of the largest urban forests in the U.S., with over 80 miles of trails in Bethany, Oregon.
Bethany, Oregon.
Oregon in the house.
Oregon, man. I mean, those guys.
They got the Rosies up there, don't they, Joe?
They got both. They got the
Both
Rockies and the Rosies.
Rockies and the
Yeah.
Rosies.
Yep, absolutely,
Yeah.
man. And you know,
What would you say main differences between one or the other?
body
or the other?
size. Body
Body
size,
size.
number one. The Rosies are bigger than the
Big.
Rockies.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of behavior change. And I don't know if that's so much because of the difference in the animal or the difference in the environment. Because the Rosies live a lot in that jungle environment, you almost find them behaving a lot like the elk do the Rockies that are in Kentucky. It's so thick that when they get boogered, they don't go very far. So,
Right.
you know, they're a little bit more territorial to an area there.
I find
How
that
about antler size?
yeah, their antlers are a lot more like
They're
mass.
smaller, yeah.
Yeah, they're smaller. They don't have the tine length or the beam length that
Yeah.
the Rockies do,
But
but
they're
they
pretty
got mass.
massive,
They-
yeah.
Yeah, they got a lot of mass. They hold a lot of mass out to the end of their tines. As a matter of fact,
Bigger in size, smaller antlers, but with more mass.
yeah, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure Trey Kistler, the bull he killed last year, was a Rosie, and it was real heavy horned and stuff. So he killed him
Right.
up there in Oregon.
Right.
Cool. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Awesome, man. So next up, this is a census-designated place in southwestern New Mexico near the Gila Wilderness. Our elk hunters out there, you guys will definitely recognize that name, where massive bull elk are frequented, man. When people look to find big bull elk in New Mexico, those 16s, ABCD, down in the Gila, that's a lot of places where everybody wants to go. This community is named after the prehistoric Indian tribe that formed a branch of the, Mogollon?
Mogollon.
I was
Mogollon.
let the Frenchman say it. How do you say it, Frenchman? Huh?
I don't know.
Spanish.
In Spanish is Mogollon.
Mogollon, the culture that lived along the Mimbres River. The tribe is known for their famous distinct black on white pottery. Mimbres pottery is so distinctive that until fairly recently, the end of its production around, get this, 1130 or 1150 was equated with the disappearance of the people who made it. And this is in Mimbres, New Mexico. Big shout out to Mimbres.
I'm glad I
Man.
didn't get to read that one.
Joe's
You
home
struggle with
state.
it.
Joe's home state in the house.
So since I read it, all y'all folks in Mimbres, remember that was Joe Gillia. So when I need some help to hunt down in the Gila, don't be helping these other boys, be helping me out. All right? We've never been down south. We've always hunted up.
Yeah,
north,
we've always
right?
hunted up
So,
north, right?
Yeah.
This border town is part of the Spokane metropolitan area and got its name in 1890 when it was selected as a landing site for the first steamboat on the Penn Oriole River. I'm not sure if I got that part right. Located in the far northeastern part of the state and in one of the most scenic areas of the state. It shares a state line with Old Town, Idaho. And this is Newport, Washington.
Newport, Washington. Washington in the house.
Yeah, the state line right,
Man, the
runs
West
right down the
Coast
middle of
showed
it.
up, Joe.
Oh, I'm telling you, man, we've been getting we get so many listeners from all of those states. It's just unbelievable. Get a lot of letters and everything like that from it. In fact, so tonight, our topic is actually, guys, it comes from you, our grinders. So what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to pull out some of these and we're going to talk about them because each one with a different message, lesson, reason, or inspiration. And I think it's real important to talk about these because these are things that happen. These are real things that happen. Real people doing these. Our grinders that are sending these in. And I took portions of some of their letters and put them on here. And I wanted to put them in a category. And the first one, and I had to start with this one first because I actually was on the phone with this young man, Brian Chavez, today from Nevada. And in Brian's letter, I'm going to read you some of it and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. It says, I've been hunting elk with my dad and grandfather for 25 years. Just before my hunt, a little over a month ago, I lost my long life hunting buddy, my grandpa. He's tried for 20 years, or he had tried for 20 years to draw this Nevada tag to hunt elk. Seems like I was always just a little short, and he drew this tag, okay? And in his letter, he says that while hunting, it seems like I was always a little short of making it happen, something I wanted to do so much for him. His goal was to not only, since he got that tag, because he said his grandpa was so excited for him when he got that. And so his personal goal was to be successful in taking that elk. And he's, and when I talked to him, it's funny over the phone, how you can feel the emotion. And I couldn't see his face, but I knew exactly
How he felt.
what was going on with his face. And how much it had touched him in his heart and how much he wanted to achieve that goal. And he said now he has to wait out 7 years he has to wait out just to put in for that Nevada tag again. And, when we talk about perspective, there's all these times that we try to give perspective, and we're talking about Brian, and I told Brian, I kind of felt some of that. I mean, there's no way any of us can compare the loss of a loved one to another. We all deal with that in our own way. But, this year, when I didn't have, for the first time after 38 years, didn't have Chav with me up there, it's funny. I didn't really know how much that pressure or that goal that I had on of me wanting to achieve that. I really didn't understand how much that meant to me until I started walking up to my animal. Mm-hmm. And so I can really, really associate with Brian and what he felt. So why do I put this under perspective? I mean, there's going to be a lot of guys out there this year that aren't going to fill tags, right? And, all of us have different reasons for the season. We have different goals. I equate as a coach me being successful by helping others to punch their tag. But for so many people, there's so much more reason out there. And in talking to Brian, about that, I really wanted him to think about a few things. He's 30 years old. He's got a lot of hunts in the windshield.
No doubt.
And I tell you, I one thing I want to tell all the people out there that didn't fill this year, and I said something like this at camp. I said, goals are something that are not purchased. Goals are not given. They're something that has to be achieved. And all of this is a journey. And I like to equate elk hunting with the journey in life. I mean, dude, you've been on that journey.
Right.
You have a perspective.
Yeah, it's a never-ending journey. I didn't realize how much I was going to miss it, not being able to be out there. And just for the camaraderie, really, and just getting out in the hills. I sat by my phone waiting for a text,
Yeah.
and I'd go like, they haven't got one yet? That doesn't seem like them, and I'd wake up early in the morning and check the phone. Nope, nothing yet. But I know there's a lot of you out there too that have been putting off going out there. YOLO, you only live once. Put in for it. You'll be surprised how much you'll miss it once it's gone. We're talking about waiting 365 days for the next hunt. I had to wait 800 days. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's a life-changing experience. And I know when you do lose somebody that's, close to you, like, we lost Carl a few years ago, it makes things, it puts things in perspective.
But at the same time, like we say, Carl has not died
Oh
because
no,
Yeah,
he
true.
keeps showing up.
every time we are in that camp, and so many times that we have this podcast, so many of you guys out there know Carl Gamage through us. And so when that happens, when we talk about it, when we have the memories, when we give his voice,
Yeah.
when we do that stuff, our brother lives on. And I think that's what it's all about. And, Brian, you've got 7 years to go gain some experience, head to Colorado, put in for New Mexico, heck, put in for Arizona over there, put in for different places. Keep getting your experience so that when you draw that Nevada one, you're going to go up there and you're going to rock it. And then you can take care of those ashes in a special way.
You betcha. Brian, check our elk camp out, man. Go to ElkBros.com and check out our elk camp. I promise you, man, our academy will help you. You will be ready the next time you get that tag, brother.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's
So
one of the things I find, is very magical when I'm out in the mountains is that for some reason those mountains have a way of actually touching my feelings in a very different way. It gets me out of my day-to-day setting and it puts me in more of a magical environment.
it's healing.
And for some reason I tend to bring to my memory I keep presence of the people that I love the most that have passed away.
Yeah.
And it just, for some reason, they're more alive while I'm up in the mountains, and they're more alive and more real to me during that time.
And those relationships with the people that are with you are that much more rich because of it.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes, sir. So I was just going to say, grandparents are can be very special to a lot of people. My grandma is just one of those
Heroes.
persons that touched my life in a very special way and still does, right? So the fact that you have that relationship with your grandpa, and when you're up there in the mountains, it doesn't matter where you're at and whether you harvest an animal or not. The important part is that that person is with you and that you're thinking of that person. That's really where the value is.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. I'm gonna tell you, in that day that Joe killed his bull, that evening, I felt like Carl Gamage had me by the dadgum belt strap of my pants, man. I could hear him talking to me the whole time. Don't mess this one up, boy. I mean, I could hear him like wheeling me across that mountain. And I had made the decision that evening that if we jumped into something, man, I was going to go till I passed clean out, because I almost did that morning. So I was going to let them tote my big ass off that mountain if that's what had to happen. But I could just hear Carl all the time. Like we feel those presence. I feel the presence of my grandfather. I mean, he was the number one, factor in me learning how to hunt. He gave me my woodsmanship. All of us had somebody in our lives that helped us get there. My grandfather was mine. So, Brian, I guarantee you, man, you stay at the ready, and you'll do your grandfather proud when you get that next tag, brother.
And keep passing that on to your family members. You got to spend
betcha.
time with your sister. You got to spend time with other family members, and that's special time, man. And your grandpa's there. So up next, this letter was from Jason Schultz from Connecticut. And I could not believe this when I heard this.
I know, man, this was crazy.
About putting in perspective. So he is 5 days into the 2-week hunt that they're going to hunt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they are on the mountain. They're over a mile from camp or wherever they're going to be when his partner breaks his fibula in 2 places. I mean, this guy, like, yeah, and
not the
look,
tib,
y'all,
the fib.
Yeah,
that's the big bone.
Did you know how that happened, Joe?
So he said that something happened. You know, how many times have you been there? Like when you go to step with one foot and it gets locked into some logs, and then you could like going over something bigger and you lose your balance and it stays back. Well, I could just see that happening. You know, and you get in an awkward position and something's got to go. And he broke his fibula in 2 places. And so get this, you know, I wouldn't have had this. I wouldn't have had a whole bunch of ibuprofen in my pack. He had ibuprofen in his pack. He jacked him up full of that. They strapped him up. The guy hikes out of the mountain. Can you imagine how excruciating this had to be?
Brother?
Yeah, the pain. So
crap.
this accident happens with your partner. Now, Jason is from Connecticut. His buddy was from Florida, right? So now you have to get out of the mountain. You have to get to the hospital. And now what happens is that you are no longer partner hunting. And there's a security in hunting with a partner, you know. So all of a sudden, now Jason has gone from pretty much, you know, it's turned into a solo hunt for him, right? And he was real in his letter. He was real appreciative because after going through our podcast and our solo series, you know, it's funny that he listened to that. It wasn't that he thought he was going to have to use that, but he's not the only letter we got. We got a letter from another gentleman, that one of our success guys, that said this was his first time elk hunt. And you know, we just did the piece on dealing with the meat after the kill. And he said he wasn't even going to listen to that podcast because he's like, what are the chances of a first timer? You know, so first of all, the heck with you for even thinking that thought. I'm upset, man. I'm like, you got to think you're going to get
Positive.
It, man.
PMA.
And he's like, so glad he did because, you know, he first time elk hunter and he kills this. So, you know, put this in perspective. Now, Jason, and I had other hunters that told me the same thing, that when they got boots on the ground in the actual place that they had never been before, and they stop and they look around, it's like, what the heck, man, where do I start, right? I mean, it just seems so big and
daunting.
Yeah. And then, you know, when you stop, when you think about the stuff you've learned, and we're going to do a podcast real quick here on I want to talk about finding elk. I want to talk about and break it down in a way that I think will make sense to a lot of people. But, you know, he went out there and got on animals, man. And he had encounters, and he feels like his, you know, out of a 1 to 10, with 10 being the best hunt it could be, he's like, man, it was such a 10, you know. Even after all of that crap happened, he continued to grind on. You know, fortunately they were using a 5th wheel, you know. So his buddy, I was like, this dude had to stay in a tent for all this time after you know,
after breaking his leg.
But he didn't. They had a 5th wheel, so it was a little more comfortable. But
still,
you know,
man,
that dude had, I mean, how much would that suck? You know,
suck bad.
Yeah.
Like I'm hoping he kills something so I can at least help him bone the meat out or something. Sit in my chair.
So wait a minute, that the gentleman had his leg broken for 2 weeks before he could get it attended to?
No, I'm
No,
sure
no,
they
no,
jumped down
no.
off the mountain when he got
No,
it.
yeah,
attended.
before they
saying.
got back out of there. So
Yeah.
he went to the hospital. They ended up putting him in the splint and all that. And he
Mhm.
went back out there with his buddy, and he pretty much stayed
Stayed
in
at
the
cast, yeah.
camper.
Oh, okay. With the cast, he stayed. Okay, sweet, man.
Yeah,
That's pretty
so
cool.
he stayed there. And you know what?
Guy's a
Sean
trooper, dude. He-
Dawson,
Yeah,
He
no
freaking
kidding. Talk
walked
about
out.
a warrior,
He walked
man.
out of there on Advil, bro. I was
Uh-huh.
eating 9 Advil a day and taking those daggum, I don't know what they were called, naproxen 500 milligrams, and my foot wasn't even broke.
dude, I break my fibula in 2 places. And somebody tells me, "Yeah, we're going to walk out of here." I'm like, "Screw that!
Get the helicopter,
Get the
man.
helo
Something.
rolling, man.
Hell, the helicopter."
We got to get the Zolio ready to roll here, man. We're texting some folks.
I'm hitting the Zolio SOS.
That's right.
It's coming in,
Exactly.
man.
Yeah.
And you know, guys, so that's perspective. And then, you know, bad things can happen. And I just got done talking with Sean Dawson, and you guys recognize that name. Sean
Oh, yeah.
was out there, and he was just finishing up his hunt. Sean, you know, he's like, "Joe, how much does it cost to go on a guided hunt in New Mexico?" And I'm like, "Dude, you know," and he's like, "After what I've paid on this hunt." So his vehicle in the mountains blows up
Oh,
and has to
no.
be towed out of the mountains. And cost him like $6,000, right? Just for his
man.
vehicle. I mean, this is after buying all your gear and getting everything, you know, that just to
Joe.
get out there to hunt. Then he's on. I think he's hiking through. He's got his bow strapped. So everybody, listen. We talk about failure points. I want you to think about this. He has his bow strapped to the back on his pack. He's walking through and he feels something pull a little bit, but he never hears nothing snap, nothing like that. Gets back to camp. And all the strings on his bows are limp because a twig limb got in between his pulley and his string and derailed his string. And so now he's got to go to a bow shop to get that fixed, you know, get back out of there. They have to rent a car, which is a 4x4 Rave that's only got 2 inches of clearance and trying to hunt Idaho. It's like, I mean, and dude, he finally gets his vehicle back, and when he's texting me, he's like, I'm like, "Where are you?" He's like, "I'm on the side of a mountain waiting for my truck to cool down because now it's overheating." And he said, "It's my birthday."
Oh, goodness gracious, man.
God.
Oh my God.
Note to this dude, man, get a backup bow. Always bring your backup bow.
Sounds a lot like our 2019 hunt.
Yes.
Oh my gosh,
Yes.
man. So for you
I-
guys out there that have struggled this season, I just wanted to give you a little perspective that no matter how bad we think things are for us, that
ain't that bad.
things could always be worse. And even though they are, for a lot of people, those people are just keep on going, right? We
Yes,
just
sir.
keep on grinding. And that's it. You know, I say, and I do that one ad for our academy.
I like it.
And
Yeah.
it's, you know, keep dreaming of the screaming, believing and achieving, but most of all, just keep grinding.
Keep grinding.
Yeah.
Just keep grinding. Okay. So our next category is never, ever quit in our next category. And this letter, the first one comes from Mike Bozarth from Central Idaho. And Mike said that he had a couple of hunts lined up, hopefully to call in a bull for his son's first elk hunt. And he also wanted to help his wife get her first archery deer, which gave him 8 days to fill his elk tag. Well, he's out hunting, and on day 4, he comes back from his hunt to find his entire camp stolen off the back of his side-by-side.
Can't do it, man. Can't do it. That's,
So,
man.
you know, how many people at that point would have said, beep, beep, this, right?
Yeah, King's X, time to go.
Yeah. And you know what? It took him a day or so because he had to, had to take care of things and get out of there. But he's back on day 6. So what did he do? Mike did not quit. And on day 6, he climbed up into a spot that he had killed the year before. And he said the elk were thick. So he had a ground blind that he set up, which is not his style. But listen to this, guys. You know, he uses all the plays in the playbook. And I'm so proud of Mike for that because, you know, you got to do a buffet when you're out there hunting, man. If you're a one trick pony, you're going to struggle. And so he went out there and he sat in it in the evening. The elk started talking. Bulls were screaming and fighting. Cows were talking. He said, and this would have been me, so he said that he was so tempted to get out and chase the bulls, but the cows had him pinned. So
don't say it would have been you, Joe. We wouldn't have been tempted. You'd have been gone.
I'd have been
Abandoned ship. We are leaving. We are leaving the confines of the little pop-up blind or ground blind. We out.
Yeah. So
we're gone.
Mike, bro, you're a lot smarter than Joe Gillia, because he said he went for the higher percentage opportunity and he harvested a cow, man.
Yay!
And I'd have been like, shoo.
Yeah.
I'd have been out of there. And then the coolest part of it is that he really just wanted to get it done, because what he wanted to do was help others to get their first archery animals and to help them make memories. So,
cool.
Mike, man, tip of the ElkBros hat to you, bro, because
impressive.
You know, talk about not quitting, right? What would you have done if you'd have come back and your total camp was gone?
Might have said a few choice words, Joe.
Not a lot of Beto would have gone unleashed.
Yeah.
We went straight off unleashed. You know, guys, I want to, it's another thing we can talk about, failure mechanisms, man. I almost, I know Joe doesn't like trail cams and stuff like that, but if you're camping in a remote location, man, it's probably not a bad idea to put you one up or a couple of them, just in case somebody does come in there and mess with your camp or something like that. Maybe you can at least get a license.
It's actually a very good idea.
Or an
ID. I have nothing against trail cams. I've just never bought one because I had other things I had to purchase. You know what I mean? So
hopefully this is something that he could take a look at maybe in his next time. But
and I think trail cams are more effective at helping you like that than they are sometimes, showing you where bulls are going to be in September.
Animals,
so, you know what I'm saying? So, next up on the list was Ryan Riedlinger, and it might be Riedlinger. If it's German, it might be Riedlinger. And he said that this was his second ever archery hunt. It was 6.5 days and over 50 miles hiked. Manano, did you hear that, bro? 50 miles hiked. And
6.5 days and only 50 miles. Come on, man. You got to put some work in. You're not impressing us, bro.
So in the amount of time, in 6.5 days, no bugles heard and only saw a few animals. And this kind of reminds me of that day for you, Gilbert, and we're going to talk about that here in a second. But he said 2 hours were left of daylight on his last day. Lightning, thunder, rain, and then a bugle.
Wow.
With 2 hours of daylight left, so that would have been 7:30. It had to have been about 5:30 p.m. He played it super aggressive. He did exactly what we tell people to do in our playbook, close the distance. He gets in on it, gets him into 15 yards, and in 2 hours. So 6 times 24 hours, right?
Yeah.
6 days of not even a bugle and hardly seeing a critter. The last 2 hours. This guy gets a bugle, closes the distance, gets him into 15 yards, and seals the deal. Right?
This reminds me so much of the T-shirt. Of the teacher of attitude adjustment that we have in ElkBros. It's just kind of paints this picture, right?
It can all happen that fast, too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. 5 minutes can change everything.
Oh, my gosh.
And I've heard so many people, and look, guys, the theme all across the West, I'm hearing people like the elk aren't bugling, right? The rut is late, right? We're hearing all of that, and it seems to be a common theme. It's like it's the toughest season ever, and I'm not saying that it's not, and I'm not saying that things aren't late, but the thing that I'm saying is that, you take a look at that evening when we got Gilbert's elk, we were in the burn area, and we had come ridge after ridge working over to that area, right? We had been talking, we had been doing, putting out locations, putting out cow calls, doing scenarios. Not a peep, right? Nothing.
Nada.
And yet,
We're 300 head of elk in there yesterday.
yeah, right. And all we did was go not even 50 yards over a ridge.
Yep. Falling off.
After making all this noise in this one area, had we just decided, screw it, there's nothing talking and going, we would have never known that going 50 yards over a ridge, giving a cow call, and things went berserk.
In that last hour and a half.
Yep.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I mean, the last 45 minutes were guys that watch duck hunting and everything, you watch Ducks Unlimited where these ducks just flood out of the sky. The last 45 minutes of that hunt was something that you film out of the Rocky Mountain National Forest or Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. I mean, it was absolutely bonkers for the last 45 minutes.
But we were 50 yards and 50 feet down from never knowing that.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
100%.
So it changes that quick. But so yeah, Ryan, congrats on your bowl, man, and congrats on keeping on grinding until the last minute. So way to get it done, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. And how many times, Chav?
Yeah, last day kills for us. We've had a lot of them.
Last day, last second.
Right. Yeah.
What I love about him is, like I said, WWJGD, right? What would Joe Gillia do? Joe Gillia would straight up play super aggressive, close the distance, and slam that bull. That's what he did.
Absolutely.
So you did exactly what you were supposed to do, Ryan.
That's our playbook right there,
Absolutely.
Ryan, man.
Go get him.
So proud of you, man. I mean, you did not quit. You never, ever quit. And you got to understand it can happen at any time.
Yeah, another little thing, too, is, with the thunder and lightning, a lot of people could have quit at that point. But, there's rain, too. And instead of heading back to camp, that's the ideal situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you can wait out a little bit of that lightning, and stay safe.
Careful with the lightning. We had some close encounters there last year.
When we did stumble on that herd, Joe and myself and Manano and Brendan, it was like when we blew the first little herd up, the wind kind of blew it up. I say we did, but pushing, we were going to blow through those herds and get to where those bulls were. And I remember the last thing Joe told me, there were 3 or 4 bulls screaming right in front of us. He goes, "Go down there." So dude, I dive off like a dadgum bull in a china cabinet, boy. Whoosh, down that hill I go. And I mean, right in front of me, a bull just erupts right out from under me. I'm like, I didn't even see him. He was standing there looking at me the whole time, man. But Joe said, go down there and blow it up. I was going down there come hell or high water. We were going to get it done. And, we got lucky, bull, gave me a little bit of a shot.
So here, for those other people, when that happens, when a bull blows out, man, you just friggin' scream, you challenge scream like you just hooked that guy in the rear end. You got him out of there, right? And did that, and man, it just incensed that other bull.
It did, man. He couldn't take it. He had to come get a little peek of what was going on up there. And when he got in that little crease, man, he gave me enough. And, again, Ryan, you felt it. You go back to your practicing and everything. Absolutely got him within 15 yards. That's amazing, man. Great job.
So our next category is our category, and I entitled this one as "You Can Be a Hero." And there's 2 gentlemen on here that are getting a huge tip of the hat. And, when we do stuff that we do, it's great to see the success. But when you see success get passed on, get taught, when people take and follow our lead of helping others to helping people themselves.
Play it forward,
Absolutely, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And all of us have talked about these 2 stories. And so we're going to share these and we're going to talk about this. We get a letter from Paul Snort from, I love this. Paul is from Wyoming, Minnesota, and he moved to Louisiana. So it's like that. I'm sorry, it's just comical. But anyway,
Wyoming, Minnesota.
Wyoming, Minnesota to Louisiana. Well, he says, and there was other parts to the letter, but I'm just going to go right down. It says, on my third day, I was walking back to camp at 2 p.m., and one of the campers next to me offered me a ride. Now, Paul had killed his elk on, I think it was day 2. It's either day 1 or day 2. And he was one of those that said when he got feet on the ground and he got there, it was just so intimidating. But he said he kept thinking about the stuff that we taught him. He just started following his nose, following his eyes, following his ears. He started going to those places, and next thing he knows, he's in elk. Next thing he knows, he's killing an elk. So that in itself was incredible, right? But what he did afterwards was he remembered what we said about how much you can learn by going and counting coup and learning about the elk. So he continued to go out and learn about elk behavior. Well, one afternoon, he had watched some elk and put them to bed. And he said on his third day, I was walking back to camp at 2 p.m., and one of the campers next to me offered me a ride. After talking to him and his son, they had been here for a week and hadn't had any close encounters and saw very few elk. This was the son's first trip out, and the father had been coming here for his 6th year and hadn't taken an elk yet. I offered to show them where I had just watched some bedding elk, and they were kind of hesitant, so I offered to go with them and try to call in for them, and that they gladly accepted. Yeah. I got them into the area and helped them set up. Now, this is so cool. So this is a guy at one point, this is his first elk hunt, right? This is a guy that has 0 elk hunting knowledge. Yeah. And before
and he's going to go call
year,
for them.
Yeah. So he is telling them how to set up. He said, awesome. I explained what to do if they start coming. I then moved back 40 yards and started calling. It took me about 30 minutes, but I finally got 3 cows, 2 calves, and a small bull to move our way. The lead cow walked 10 yards broadside in front of the sun, and I watched him smoke her.
Wow.
The father and son down there hugging and happier than can be. He said he was getting choked up watching this because the father was crying with happiness. The boy was only 12 years old and on his first trip. He said, I helped them pack it out, and they invited me back for supper. He said it was such an awesome feeling. I gave an elk reed that I hadn't used yet, unlike Luis, who gives you used reeds, right?
Give you the used reeds right out of his mouth.
He said, I gave an elk reed that I haven't used yet and showed him how to use it. He was pretty rough, but over the last 2 days, he's been getting pretty good around camp. Anyways, I can't wait till next year.
Lifelong friends made their Paul.
Wow, what a story, Joe. It's moving in so many, different ways. It's just unbelievable. It's kudos to Paul. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, great
story. Made a difference to that family, and an everlasting memory for that 12-year-old kid, man.
You'll have some hunting partners for life there, Paul.
Yeah.
Especially that boy.
Yeah, when to pass it on like that. Now, and what I think is so cool is he had so much confidence in his skills that he learned.
Yeah.
That he was actually now passing on that knowledge. It's almost like, being a tutor in school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, quick parentheses. Instead of focusing in the fact that I gave you a use read, I think you should focus in the fact that I gave you the only read I had.
And if I remember correctly, you pulled another one out of your pocket.
No.
When I was going to give it back to you, you were like, no, I'm good. I have this other one.
No, I have the other one at camp. At camp. I didn't have it with me because I would have put it back in my mouth and tried to call in.
And dude, like we're like in a relationship at this point, right?
No. You're in a relationship with me. I'm not in a relationship with you. Let's make that clear.
And I want you. This is the reed that I call in his bull that he kills with, right?
Yeah. First bull.
Yeah, I call in the bull, and he kills this bull, And I'm like, you know what? He's going to cherish this
There's the
reed
reed,
forever.
yeah.
You know, and I'm like, bro, you want to? Nah.
No, you can have it. It's all you, bro. So you can keep it for your memory about this elk. I have my memories all well set and done.
Grinders tuning in, thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Podcast. Our goal is to share our knowledge and help you flatten that learning curve so that you too can have some of the very same incredible experiences that have given all of us here at ElkBros a lifetime of memories. If you like what you hear or see, you can get all of this information plus so much more from our Base Camp Elk Hunting Training Camp, the first in a series of online courses from our Blue Collar Elk Academy. Our Base Camp Training Camp allows me to use my coaching style and share almost 40 years of elk hunting experiences successfully hunting elk on public lands, as well as over 20 years guiding hunters of all ages and experience levels. This course will be like nothing you have ever experienced in concept and structure, using success-based coaching techniques that will elevate your confidence and skill sets. Our camp will prepare you specifically from that final moment most in your control, those final minutes or seconds the elk is in front of you, backwards through each step and level, allowing you to see, visualize, understand, and relate every coaching point to what lies ahead, the next step, the next thought process, the next success. Because y'all, you've already been there. You know what it looks like. By tapping my 30 years of teaching and coaching experience, our camps are developed considering multiple learning modes with text, visuals, audio, as well as video. And Base Camp will benefit those new to elk hunting all the way to the 10 to 15 year vet. So if you are looking for that one thing to help you fill that tag this year, invest in the most important piece of equipment there is, you and your elk hunting knowledge. You can find the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Academy and the Base Camp Training Camp at ElkBros.com. That's ElkBros.com. Keep dreaming of the screaming, believing in achieving, and most of all, keep grinding. So, next up in this category, Mr. Eric Aragon from New Mexico.
Did he say where he was from? Or?
Yeah, he's actually from Cruces.
Oh, Las Cruces.
Las Cruces, yeah. And he says that he was hunting solo in the Gila wilderness recently, and he ran across a hunter with his nephew after they bumped a herd that he was set up on. So get this. What were you going to say?
Time out real quick, Joe.
Yeah, no, the Jason Schultz is from another thing. So this is Eric Aragon, right? Okay.
Gotcha.
And so Eric is set up in the Gila, and he's working a bull when this guy and his nephew come into his setup and blow it up. So what would be most people's reaction? I see Gilbert going.
I've had that happen.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one. You know, it's a tough one to turn around.
Yeah.
And it seems like he did.
Yeah. So get this. When he saw them, he went down and he started talking to them, and he found out that they were new to the area, and that and that the young boy was excited, full of questions about the hunt, and he asked them if they would like to join him for the rest of the day's hunt. So this guy has got a bull he's working, and these guys come in and blow up his hunt. He talks to the kid, and he can see the genuineness in this kid. He can see the excitement. And I don't know if he saw himself. I don't know, right, what possessed him, but he goes ahead and asks them if they want to join for the hunt. So he wanted to show them around the area where he had success in the past. Not only is he going to have them join him, but he's showing them his hunting holes. This is a guy that hunts there quite a bit, right? Wow. Hunting alone in the backcountry without horses or help in 90-degree weather was not going to help me much in terms of preventing spoilage. So he knew that, if he was going to be out there hunting, he could help somebody else out, right? So the guy wasn't really versed in calling, so he offered to do the calling, and off they went. that afternoon, he called in a real nice bull. And if you guys haven't seen the photos, go to Instagram. Nice bull is an understatement. This is a beautiful bull. Called it in to 8 yards, and this guy seals the deal and fills his tag. He then says we worked together to break the bull down, and he learned how to debone the animal. He taught them how to debone it and prepped him for a haul out. So basically, Eric educated, took him under the wing, called in a bull, watched these guys be successful because of his calling, helped them, taught them how to debone, how to get it there, and how to haul it out. And, he says, I made some new friends and I showed them some real New Mexico hospitality, which is a complete understatement, man.
Yeah.
He says he really loves to call for others, and although he didn't harvest an elk for himself, he came home just as happy because he was able to help someone else achieve success. And
that's cool.
We know how that feels.
Yeah. Example to humankind right there.
Yeah, like Joe, it harkens back to not this year, but the past year when you and Chav ran into the young man that and his son.
Pat Lovato and Little Pat,
Yeah, Pat and Little Pat, man. I was more jacked up that Little Pat was there with him, skipping school and doing the cool things with Dad. I mean, he was all outfitted in his own gear, man. Had his bow. I mean, it was really cool to see that Pat was sharing that with his son. And
absolutely.
I could have cared less at that point whether I killed anything. I really wanted that young man to be able to feel all of that. And look, I mean, we kind of called them in, they called us in, kind of a deal. And then, we were working on some other bulls that were around there, and it is what it is, but it was kind of the highlight of our day, seeing those two. And then,
absolutely,
man, it wasn't, 15 minutes later, we're in the middle of another set, and, they hadn't left us, maybe 20 minutes, and you killed your bull.
Yeah.
So I just think, guys, if you'll pass it on, man, Chav said that, Pat, pay it forward. If you
comes back to you.
I think so, man. The good
Eric,
Lord's got a ways of blessing you.
What you've done, Eric, is worthy of admiration and respect. And so
straight up ElkBros grinder from us, man.
Sure. Heck yeah. Eric, man, you're the type of guy that we would want to have in our camp. Who knows? Maybe one day that'll happen since you're here in New Mexico. I mean, I just think that's cool. And, we always talk about trophies and awards. And, I mean, you can think of killing an elk yourself. Like, I've killed so many elk in so many years, right? But that's something that I've done. But the things that I really remember is helping somebody else have that memory. And when we talk about trophies, I mean, Chav, you've won a lot of accolades and trophies and stuff like that, but what's always been your thing about trophies?
Well, just a trophy is just it's just an award that collects dust. It's the memories that you get from going through the process that is really important.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. And I think not only is Eric going to have an incredible memory, but he's got a friend for life. He's got a young man that now thinks that this guy is like the Elk Whisperer, bro. And he probably,
he was.
Yeah, absolutely was, and we'll probably stay connected with him and throughout, for years to come. Eric, you might be an old man one day, and this guy's going to come up and knock on your door and just sit down and rehash memories, and that's going to be a special time, man. So, so way cool. I just thought that whole section, so many of us in public land, we get so hurt thinking that, spots are ours, and they're not. Sometimes helping somebody else to have an experience will speak volumes. And like Chav said, those things that we have on our wall, they just collect dust. But helping another human being to feel good about themselves, to achieve something, to have a memory, it speaks volumes throughout eternity. So guys, don't forget that, right?
Yep.
Be that kind of person out there. And then my last category is something that, it's not as much fun to talk about. But this has happened, and I've had a lot of guys that have called me, and I've actually experienced that on this last hunt. And this category is you can do everything right, and then the unexplainable happens. In other words, perfect shots can have less than perfect results. I will tell you that I have talked to 3 individuals in the last week that have dealt with this, that they have either lost an animal. You know, I had a hunter just this last week that for days questioned himself, man. You know, self-doubt, replaying it over and over, saying how unlucky he was, how unworthy, how unprepared, when he was none of those things, because he made a perfect shot. And I only know this because after 3 days of searching for his animal, I found it after 3 days. And
3 days.
3 days.
Joe dog that bull.
Eternity
3 days.
in those terms.
Oh,
Yeah.
WWJGD.
So,
I want that guy in my elk camp.
you know, but it was bittersweet.
Baddest
And,
man
you know,
on the
it's
planet.
bittersweet because, you know, we lost the animal, we found the animal, and there was a lot of information we were able to get from it. But let me tell you what, he shot this bull in the pocket, shot it in the pocket behind the shoulder. And how this happens with an animal that is slightly, if anything, quartering away, it should have come out the golden triangle on the other side. But somehow or another, that arrow turned, came out 6 inches further out in the back on the other side, and ended up only getting part of one lung and then internals on this animal. So an animal that should have died in 30 seconds to a minute ended up living. I gave that animal 12 hours until we got on it, and it was still alive, got up and jumped. Gave it another 4 hours before I even looked at it after that, because I figured, well, maybe, you know, it was something that, you know, I'm missing something here. And I find it alive, back out, go back in another 4 hours, and that animal is now gone and has walked off. You know, I mean, and let me tell you what, when I find the animal, he shot the animal in the pocket, man. And I have a very good buddy that is an incredible guide and knowledge, and had an animal that they shot mid-body, 3 inches behind the crease. Found the arrow on the other side, full of blood. You know that animal should have gone down in 10 to 15 seconds. Never found the animal, and they are beating themselves up to death. I mean, you know, there's just sometimes, guys, you can do the right things and have less than perfect results. And, you know, there's sometimes that you get a bad shot. And I mean, you've prepared like crazy. You've done all the right things. You've shot. You've done things, and just crap happens. And you know, instead of you thinking that you are unlucky, unworthy, or unprepared, I want you to think about this: that a lot of times, y'all, we are often only unprepared for the fact that life and death in the real world is not cut and dry. It can be messy and hard. More so in the animal world, where the difference between life and death, guys, is brutal. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've had my fair share of those
Yeah.
feelings, Joe. And
both Luis and I both have. I mean,
and it's hard. It's really hard. But
it's hard. It's heartbreaking. I mean, you put a lot of work in. You think you make a good shot, and sometimes you do. And you just, for one reason or another, the animal runs out of sight, or you can't really pin him down. Weather. I mean, there's a lot of things that come into play. I think also a lot of times we, as hunters, the angles that we shoot are more important than just the placement, right?
Right.
The way the bull is standing, if he's hunched up, if he's at full alert. A lot of those things come into play, Joe, but just as you've said, the unexplainable happens. And
Yeah, it does.
when that happens, man, you got to understand that there are lessons in this. One of them is humility and humble pie and trying to figure out what we could do better as a hunter.
Yeah,
as
the
a
learning,
person.
the learning
Yeah.
behind it.
The learning behind it.
You know, I agree.
And keep working,
Absolutely. It's, again, heartbreaking is tough. It's tough to overcome those feelings at the moment, at the heat of the moment, when those things are happening and unfolding, and
Yeah.
that all uncertainty comes to play. And look, even this year, right? I mean, I kind of started a little bit on that path, and I was like, I try to keep optimistic. And I remember telling Joe, I was like, hey, Joe, I'm sorry, man. I felt like it was an okay shot. And Joe is like, don't you start that crap on me. And I immediately turned and I said, no, I'm just saying I'm sorry once and that's it. I'm moving on. And, I'm going to, I gave it my best and that was it. And fortunately.
Those moments are anxious though,
Yeah. So I guess
absolutely.
the message, as you put it, Joe, is that, we have to understand that the unexplainable happens, as you say it.
It does.
And we just have to accept it and just become better for it.
I have seen things in these 30 years and I still continue to see things, I saw an animal shot so that it entered in one side, went across to the lung on the other side. The arrow ended up coming out the back hip of this animal without touching any internals. Totally,
It's unbelievable.
totally unexplainable in any way, shape, or form. But yet it happened. I mean, there are people that saw all of this. So, crap happens. And then, that's when we do everything right. And sometimes we don't. But, look, any of us worth our salt are going to beat ourselves up a little bit over there. We're going to question ourselves. There's going to be the self-doubt. There's going to be the replaying. I mean, that's just because, it is important to us. We do not sleep well at night. We do have a conscience. But yeah, guys, that's our reason as hunters to be the best we can, to be as efficient as we can. And that's how we honor our animal that we seek out to harvest. That's what we do. But understand something. As long as we are human, as long as this is a battle between life and death, that there are going to be times that things are not going to go our way. And it's going to be things that are going to be hard to swallow. But that doesn't mean that we give up on this, I mean,
and know that animal wasn't wasted.
Yeah.
It fed the masses, right? It fed all of what lives in its wild environment.
Oh, nothing goes to waste in the wild, man. And if you do your due diligence to find that animal and do everything you can recover that animal. Like I said, I looked for 3 days. In 2 days alone, put on 20 miles. And that's where it came in real handy to have my base map app. I used that to see where I had gridded, what I had covered. And my first area was a 400-yard circle because I could swear that animal had to go down in that. And then I extended to a half mile and found that animal at 786 yards from where I last found it. So, it's you do what you can as much as you can. And if you do figure that animal, and don't in the beginning, do not go, well, it's just a flesh wound. You follow it up as much as you can. Because I guarantee you, man, if you saw that go in, and it goes in a little further back, and it goes through both sides and has 2 holes, that animal is going to die. It's just flat out going to die. It might take it 2 days to die, but it's going to die. And so you do the best you can for that recovery. That is our ethical responsibility. That's all we can do. And if we've done that, you have to consign yourself that you've done the best that you can. And I've seen some incredible tracking jobs done by incredible people. So it can happen. And just stick to it. You know what I'm saying? Okay.
That's right, Joe.
All right. So we've covered the good, the bad, and the ugly, right?
Yes, sir.
Let's go to Elk Bros mailbox.
You bet, buddy.
The Elk Bros mailbox, this first group of category, it seems like there's a lot of people dealing with this. And I'm sorry they're having to deal with it, but it's just part of nature, and that's dealing with wildfires. So, Luis, why don't you take that first one?
Yeah, Mr. Jerome Zimmerman from Laramie, Florida, Wyoming. Laramie, Laramie, Wyoming. He says, I'm about 20 days out from the opening of my season, rifle hunting in Wyoming. So yesterday, a wildfire in my area spread to over 60,000 acres.
Yes, sir.
My question, wow, that's a lot. My question is, where should I look for animals, or should I just try
off the season?
Right off the season. I'm figuring that my best bet will be on the prairie at the base of the mountains in rough country. Just curious of what your opinion is. Thank you for the help and love the show. Congratulations on the great season for your crew. Sounded like an exciting hunt, even if you were walking in circles.
Jerome Zimmerman makes a joke.
Yeah, we are.
Okay, Jerome. I see
Jerome,
you.
we did get to polish our geometry skills here a little bit.
Yeah, I see you working,
especially
Jerome.
Beto.
Gilbert knows what a circle is.
You dadgum right I do, and I know what a half moon is too. Hey, Jerome, listen up, brother. It ain't gonna be long for them critters gonna be back in that burn, brother. I'm telling you, it is not gonna take long, huh, Joe?
Yeah, the only thing is he's rifle hunting this season, and now had this happened in a summertime there, and we got moisture and stuff like that, and it was it was a fire, then it might be a little bit different. But and Gilbert's right, it don't take long for the animals to get back in. Now I'm not sure if it's anything like what I saw some of the beetle kill forests there in Wyoming. I mean, it was just, oh my gosh! I mean, it's just nothing but dead forest in a lot of places, and you knew that once a fire started, it was just tinder,
Yeah.
So this could be good in a lot of ways. But if you're like going into an area to hunt, I can see where it'd be difficult.
Discouraging.
And look, there's a lot of variables here to talk about a fire, whether it's a good fire, a fast fire, hot fire, whether it's a patch fire where it leaves stuff in between the grasses and what's moist and jumps over areas. There's so many variables to that. But when you're talking 60,000 acres like that, and if it's anything like what I envision, those animals are going to push into areas, and it could be the prairie at the base if it provides what they need, if it provides water, food, and cover. And so you're not the only one. I talked with Jason here. So I'm going to read Jason's real quick because we're going to talk about these in kind of combination. He's from Arvada, Colorado. He says, I was just getting ready to put boots on the ground when a wildfire broke out in my unit where I hold a cow tag for the third rifle. Should I forget about hunting my original unit this year and buy an OTC tag for the second hunt? What will an active fire do to elk population? It's burning at higher elevation in the southwest part of the unit, 12,000 acres, and that's grown since then. Will it cause migration to start early? Will it have the same effects of cold, deep snow? It's actually snowing today. Also, because of closures, I won't be able to scout the areas I originally pinpointed. The areas are not biting, but firefighters using all the roads to access the fire, so they're closing them off. On opening morning, should I just shoulder my pack, check the wind, and head for a high spot to glass? My biggest fear is bumping into a bunch of elk in the dark. So he's got a lot of things going on in his, that he talks about. But I'm going to tell all you guys, look, one thing that I tell guys is that in a lot of these areas, you have prevailing winds. Like where we hunt, we get a prevailing wind that comes out of the west, right? So a lot of times those fires, even though they will creep towards that west in the burn the way it goes, most of that fire is going to get blown towards the east, head to the north, right? Different whichever way those winds are taking it. So a lot of times these animals are going to head with the wind in their nose, and they're going to head to get out of that if they can, if they're in that ability to do that. So I would look for adjacent areas to this fire in multiple areas that provide the exact same things that you were looking for before. Does it provide water? Does it provide food? Does it have security? If you find those things in adjacent areas, these animals are going to be concentrated more. And I would look 5 to 10 miles from this. And for me, I would actually go on the prevailing side because, you know, these animals could have gotten out that way. But if it doesn't work out according to your unit, if it doesn't work out according to topography, look around and find those types of areas. So as far as it acting like starting a migration, I don't know that it starts a migration. It just starts a movement. I mean, it's just like, you know.
Yeah, they don't want to leave their range. You know, that's their home. They don't want to. The fire will move them. But I watched a deal on wildlife biologists talk about this very thing on our Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, and they've seen herds come back to a burn in less than 15 days, Joe, after a rain.
Oh, sure.
So I mean,
again, depending on the type of burn, right?
Yeah, depending on the type of burn. So, and they were talking about edges of the burn, where these critters like to set up on those edges too, because it offers some really rich opportunity for them to graze and really good cover too. So you guys don't get too afraid of all of that. I think you still, like Joe said, you know, do your due diligence, put your boots on the ground, man, and go check around the edges of the burn and see what's
now.
You know.
I'll tell you, the edges of those burns are going to be better a year and 2 years from now.
Absolutely.
Or again, if they happened at the beginning of the summer and we got moisture, that's definitely a place. Now, it's going to be a lot tougher right now because you're not in the growing season. So everything is going to be dormant underneath that burn right now. So you've got to find the areas that already have the water, food, and the cover. All right. And going up someplace and hide a glass is what you should be doing anyway, Jason, man. And, you know, check the wind, get up there. And if you're doing this, if you're getting up on it early in the morning and some of that mountainous country, a lot of those elk are going to be down lower anyway. They might be on benches or they might be on saddles and different things like that. So when you get up high, don't worry about, you know, your biggest fear shouldn't be bumping elk in the dark, really. I mean, I wouldn't make that my biggest fear. I think I would use my nose if I've got my nose to the wind like you're talking about or cross. I should be able to smell them if I'm coming up to elk in the dark. So pay attention to your other senses. There, you know, depending on, I think you're talking about the second rifle and then the third rifle is your cow tag. Well, those cows, man, by that time are probably going to be a little bit lower looking for that grass, and they're going to be on those southern slopes if there's any snow. So that third rifle is a little bit different. That second hunt, I'm not sure if you're talking about a cow or a bull then on that second hunt, but buddy, with those cows, if you're hunting cows, you got to find feed. You got to find feed, got to find water, got to find feed, got to find water.
All slaves to the belly, Joe.
Absolutely, man. So, and if there are people that aren't able to get into certain areas because roads are closed off, you know, you might be able to find another way to get in their back door, and it kind of limits the people that are in there. So, you know, there's a lot of questions that you have to ask yourself on this. I mean, it's just personal preference for some of these things. If you follow your heart, follow your gut. If part of you tells you to do something, go do it. All right. You know, and enjoy it. Once you make a decision, don't second guess though. Exactly. And we tell ourselves as guides all the time, we got to make tough decisions. Once we make that decision, that is the decision. You live with it and you go make it happen. Okay.
Yep.
All right. And Jerome, man, I've heard, I think that fire's up to 80,000 acres now. If that's the Mullen fire, I think that they're talking about, or
Wow.
that I've heard about. So I really feel for you guys having to deal with that. I feel for homeowners. I feel for all the people that are having to deal with that. It's a tough time, but there's a reason for that fire, and we're hoping that, in the future that becomes even a better place for those critters. All right.
Yep.
Yeah. You want to get the
Next
next
up,
one, Gilbert?
Yeah, next up, Joe Willett sent us a note here from Cleellum, Washington. He says, so I live and hunt in Washington State. In our state, if you don't draw a cow permit or branch antlered bull permit, you're limited to a spike only or even a true spike. How would I target those in both early or late season? Do you have any advice or calling tactics scenarios to try? I'm a solo hunter and have some calling experience, but I typically end up calling in bulls with cows and having fun doing that. I occasionally jump them wandering around, but hardly see them ever again.
Yeah. So he's wanting tactics to be able to hunt spikes, right? And
They
those
like
poor
to be with the
dudes.
herd.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
They
Those poor
want to be
dudes.
part of the party.
They do, man. So much so.
Yeah.
And so what do we do to get your spike there, Luis?
As far as recovery?
No, as far as getting it to come in.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you had to change tactics there. We started early in the morning, and we heard him sparring, and we
heard
were
other
actually,
bulls, right? There were other bulls sparring.
yeah, there were
right?
other bulls in the area, and we were able to actually put eyes on them. So as you started calling in, you had a kind of a lost cow tactic just to see if that would, get their attention. And it sure did. I mean, they were all looking in our direction, but I did notice one of them started kind of going away, not liking the situation. So I told you that. And as soon as I said that, you kind of started changing the tactic and started playing more like you were a herd. And we had some cows in there with a bull, and you guys were moving kind of away. And so at that moment, I did see the spike just kind of bite the hook, and started kind of gaining some interest and started coming our way. And because of the topography, it was kind of hard for me to see where he went. So there was a blind spot there where I couldn't see if he'd gone up on the side of on the wood side or straight up in the, clear area. And, at that point, you actually moved out into the clear area, because you were looking at my body language of, trying to peek out above and, where I couldn't see the animal. So as soon as that happened, then he was on a string, man. He did like the whole herd strategy, and he was on a string. I mean, he just came trotting up that hill, up until, he bumped into Manano texting.
Yeah. And like I said, they want to be part of the party, man. I mean,
yeah.
I've seen it 1,000 times. Joe can call cows and spikes like it's no business. I mean, you want to call them close to you, and not a problem. We know how to get them spikes involved, don't Joe?
Yeah, and when you're talking about targeting them early or late season, they want early and late. Now they get bumped out by those bulls, those rutting bulls. They just so that's why they're out there, and you're calling bulls and cows in at that time, because they're kind of been
scared,
pushed out. Yeah, and
they're scared for their life.
But early and late season, those spikes are going to join right back up with that herd. They want to be with the herd. They're young bulls. They still have a mama there and an aunt and a grandma, and they want to be part of that. So, when I want to target spikes, I just use herd talk, man. And you're going to bring some cows, but if there's any spikes in the area, you'll end up pulling some of those spikes as well. And I tell you, man, they'll even come into bull screaming and stuff like that. Man. They just, I sat on a ridge when Manano had killed his bull, and I was just trying to freeze this bull and just distract him, and I'm screaming like bloody murder, man. I mean, I'm just doing bugles that are ridiculous bugles. I mean, irritating bugles. And these spikes just came. Doo, 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 doo. They just wanted to,
It was wanted to like, see the show. They just kind of wanted to come in and see what's going on.
Hey man,
I've never heard anything like
a
this
fight at
before.
school, man. Here they all come. They want to see they want to see the fight at school.
So,
I mean, honestly, I was borderline thinking, I was like, well, I understand what Joe's trying to do by trying to distract the bull and looking this way, but I don't know if that's actually going to be counterproductive to where it's going to really scare that bull away, make it run away. But it was completely the opposite, man. It was just, we had additional animals coming in.
Yeah, it was crazy.
One morning I had the great Carl Gamage with me, and I had Scott Deaton with me, and we're coming up through a little spot that Joe loves dearly that's close to where we hunt now. And we're coming up through this little neck, and I'm cow calling and sounding like a big old herd bull and stuff like that. And I happened to turn and look up on the left-hand side of me. There's a big shelf, and I thought I heard some rocks clinking. And I turn and I look, and I mean, there's three big spikes, and they're all like a dog looking at us, a cow looking at a new gate. They're all like, what in the world are they doing down there sounding like that? And they don't look like an elk. They're all, they would turn their heads like a dog like that. So we just kept rolling, right? We just kept moving forward. And I showed it to Scott. I said, hey, look right there. You kill one of them. He goes, no, I'm killing a bigger bull. I'm like, okay, so we just kept rolling, right? Those rascals followed us.
They will. Absolutely.
Yeah. They followed us for a quarter of a mile, Joe. Every time I'd start calling, they'd run up the side of that ridge, come on down, and then come right back down to us.
Yeah.
It was the most crazy thing.
It sounds like they're young animals, right?
Absolutely.
They're still trying to figure stuff out, right? Yeah. So it's just like, it kind of reminds me a little bit of them calves that we called in, this year. That they were just like, they weren't sure what they were looking at, and they were still kind of following us.
Hammer.
So, spikes look big because they have, they grow quickly. But, as far as animal age, they're still kind of pretty young and trying to figure stuff out. So if you think about it, it's really like the second, maybe the third season, if anything like that. But it's mainly the second season of these animals when they're kind of spikes like that. So they're still not sure what's all going on, and they're very full of curiosity.
Look, you're a teenager, and your dad has just booted you out of the house, and you just want to go home, man. You just want to hang out with the family, man. You want to go with mama, aunt, and grandma, and so really, but you just use that. You use that herd talk. You use the mews. You use the chirps. You use some of those buzz calls. Just those things that those cows use to just sound like a group and a herd. You can throw them in different directions, and you change it up. You give it some variety to sound like a herd. And I think that's the best bet early and late season to be able to bring those spikes in and to have that opportunity. Okay. So guys, man, I just want to say because I know this next one, Darren White from Vancouver, Kevin Orcutt from Union Grove, Jonathan Bruce from Eugene, Joshua Bonfilio from Oregon. You guys are next in our lineup. And the reason I'm stopping here is that it's amazing, Darren, because your question has just become a topic in the Elk Bros. Yeah, it's become a topic in the Elk Bros, and it's amazing that and I'm going to throw this out so you guys know that this is coming up on the list here. He's actually wondering what we think about the Ashby data and the philosophy of those that apply to the principles, like James Nash. So when he's talking about his 12 rules and the different things like that.
Yeah, the factors, man. That's the stuff I've been looking at.
Look at Luis's face light up, man, because, Luis just posted on the Instagram today about, how he's just made the adult arrows and, he's doing all this experimentation. And Luis is the scientist of the group, and you can see from his face, he's like a kid in a candy store. Show him, Luis. Huh?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
No,
Look
way
at him. He
cool.
got all geeked up over
Oh,
it.
he
Way
got
cool,
oh man.
man.
So
Way
he started
cool.
listing all this stuff that his first setup and this next setup, and all I did was on Instagram, I just did that little emoji like, my brain blowing
Like
up,
the
man.
brain blowing up. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we
Very
will
cool.
get that on our podcast the next time, Darren. So man, stay tuned for that. All right.
Absolutely. Very cool.
Yeah. It's guys, you know, all of these topics that we've talked tonight, we've all been through in 2020 elk season already. There are guys that are getting ready, geared up, Joe, that are going to get the smoke poles out and go to laying some meat on the ground. It's been an unbelievable archery season. We still got some buddies that are up in Colorado still doing it. So big shout out to them guys out there that are still getting it done. Mr. Howe and all his friends that are up there in Colorado, we wishing
Max
y'all
Layton
the best.
starts his next week too. So good luck, Max.
That is awesome, and we can't wait to see the pictures. Guys, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe, rate, and review. You got to go to Apple Podcast or iTunes to review us, and you can check out more elk hunting content at ElkBros.com. Also, man, I got to keep saying this because the academy that Joe and Chav have put together has just been unbelievable. The Elk Camp that guys can go to on our webpage and check that camp out. It is unlike anything you guys have ever seen. I don't care if you've been elk hunting for 40 years, you're going to learn something. Y'all go check it out on ElkBros.com. Joe and Chav put their life's work into this stuff. It's been fantastic. The reviews have been fantastic, Joe.
Yeah.
The stuff that I've seen in it, it's been a huge help. I used a bunch of it this year. I know Luis and the other boys did too. So, just a reminder, if our listeners out there would like their questions answered on our show, and send your questions to info@elkbros.com. That's info@elkbros.com. Joe, another epic episode here on the Blue Collar Elk Academy.
Number 88, bro.
Number 88. It
Yep.
just keeps getting better. And it's because of you guys out there that we get to do stuff like this. So from a bottom of our...
And this was very special too, because there's a lot of emotions and feelings into this podcast, and it's all about kind of the inner selves and the experiences of the hunt and really what's important. So a very, very human like type podcast with ton of emotions and feelings and memory. So no, I liked it. It felt very special, Joe.
Yeah, Joe does a tremendous job putting all this content together for us. We get to come out here. I get to MC it, bring it to you live and in charge. But it like the Big O show. We're going to end it. We're going to go to our little close here, guys. We thank you so much for
Circle Walker.
Yeah, the Circle Walker himself. Husbands, kiss your wives. Wives, kiss your husbands. Hug your babies. Keep your broad head sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Peace, everybody.
Peace.